about the 2002 sports comedy drama Bend It Like Beckham with our guest Maria. Welcome.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to be here.
Hi.
I love this movie, so I'm so happy to talk about it.
But before we dive in, let's get into some housekeeping.
We did it. I think we did it.
It was good. It was good. It sounded great.
Thank you. Excellent. If you love the podcast and you want to support us, here's a few ways you can.
Did you know that you can write us a review and rate us and help us get more listeners? You can. Please do. I'm not begging. I'm just asking kindly. Just take a pause. Just take a pause and just go ahead, write that review real quick. Even if you just wrote, love it. That's fine. That's perfect. Thank you. And if you want to be featured and help us grow, just head to Apple, Spotify, Podchasers, Good Pods, or your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review.
And when you're leaving that review, make sure you subscribe to our show on your favorite platform. This will remind you when new episodes come out.
And if you want to keep the love flowing, head to our Redbubble account and check out our merch. We've got shirts, cups, clocks, whatever you want. We put that, I was going to say we put that shit on everything like
Yeah,
that.
it is. It's like hot sauce.
I hear it.
Just head to nomorelatefees.redbubble.com. And let's dive into the movie. Jackie, tell us about Bend It Like Beckham.
Absolutely. So instead of wanting to be like her older sister, who is prepared to be a traditional Indian wife, young Jess dreams of playing soccer professionally like her hero, David Beckham. Wholeheartedly against Jess's unorthodox ambition, her parents eventually reveal that their reservations have more to do with protecting her than with holding her back. When Jess is forced to make a choice between tradition and her beloved sport, her family must decide whether to let her chase her dreams and a soccer ball.
Starring Parminder, Nagra, Keira, Knightley, Rhys, Meyers, Archie, Panjabi, David Beckham. Oh, David Beckham's Kher.
And there's Juliet, Stevenson, and Shaznay Lewis.
It was directed by Gurinder Chadha and written by Parminder, Burgess Guljet Bindra, and Gurinder Chadha. And you can watch it on HBO Max. But before we start, let's get into our ratings rewind.
So the drill, before we get into the movie, we're going to reveal the rating our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. Then at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial rating. Our scale consists of would buy it again.
The best, would play on repeat.
5-day rental.
Would watch again.
2-day rental.
It's okay, but nothing to write home about.
And same-day rental.
Kick that football into the trash.
Very proud of you for calling
Thank
it
you.
a football.
Thank you.
Football.
Oh yeah,
Football.
I would have called it a soccer ball. Very impressive.
See, Nick, we know sports.
I am adaptable.
All right, Mario, we'll start with you. What is your rating? Your Y2K
My
rating?
Y2K rating would be buy it. Like my Y2K soul loved this. So I remember like quoting it with my friends constantly. So I would have bought it.
Jackie?
It was a 2-day for me. I think it was just a little over Y2K Jackie's head.
That's fair. That's very fair.
I had some cultural growing to do.
Danielle has it. It's upstairs on DVD.
Yes, I love that.
I did watch it quite a bit. Can't wait to get into how Danielle feels about it now. Let's get into the box office numbers. So this movie had a budget of $5.6 million and it made $76.6 million worldwide.
Oh.
And this movie, like our movie from last week, had a bit of a struggle to really get to where it needed to go. Last week we did My Big Fat Greek Wedding. So
yeah,
it's been very much an immigrant story comedy session back to back.
I love that.
So when this movie was originally released in the UK, it topped the country's box office for the next 3 weekends before it got overtaken by About a Boy, which I love that movie.
That's fair.
And in the UK, it grossed over 11 million euros, making it one of the highest grossing Black/Asian themed British films. With 32.5 million in the US box office revenue, Bend It Like Beckham became the highest grossing Indian themed film in the United States since the movie Gandhi in 1982, which is the year Jackie and I was born. So that bitch old.
Sure. Well, in Gandhi, who played?
He was Ben Kingsley was not
Yes.
fucking
Yeah,
Indian.
Yes.
it was Ben Kingsley.
I was like, who was the Mandarin? Always bringing him back to the MCU because I couldn't remember his name.
It's funny because I thought he might have been Indian just because of his casting.
Yeah, we
No.
definitely, I'm glad we're not doing the 80s. It would have been real hard. We would have had a lot of issues with some of our favorite movies and not so favorite.
Yeah.
At the time of the release, Bend It Like Beckham became the highest grossing association football themed sports film in the United States. And it remains the third highest grossing film there in this genre, behind Kicking and Screaming and one of Maria's faves, She's the Man.
No way. Okay. I was just thinking like, yeah, that's a huge for a British movie, the soccer aspect. Like you would think there'd be more movies, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think there's definitely way more football themed movies.
Yes.
And I'm trying my best here.
Yeah. I should be more sensitive, but my bad.
Across the pond, but like here in America, it is not surprising because clearly we think we're so special. We call it soccer, and
that's true.
And it's funny because in the last few years, we've just seen everything come to a head, especially when it comes to women's soccer/football and just the fight for equality. And this movie was I feel like at the height of the soccer league here in the United States for women. I think we won the Olympics, the women won gold, like a lot of things were coming together. Soccer was the top of the top at that time. So it was just a cultural collision that was kismet, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure. I can completely see that.
All right, Jackie, you ready to dive in?
Ready. So the movie starts with a Manchester United football game. It's not called a team over there. It's called something else. League? Is it a league?
Yes.
Sorry, Nick, starting off strong.
I only know that from Ted Lasso, thank God.
Love Ted Lasso.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of. I'm like, Ted Lasso does soccer.
So it is the league that David Beckham plays for. We find out that our main character, Jess, is watching this, but then she starts to kind of imagine herself as the first woman player for this Manchester United league.
The CGI in this scene is a top tier, my God.
Yeah. That's how you know. A movie starts out strong with the what time period you're in, for sure.
Her fantasies are interrupted by her family, which consists of her mom, her dad, and her sister Pinky, who is getting married. And so I just wrote, Mom is mad because she's bringing shame on the family.
That's more or less it, yeah. I mean, I can explain it more. Yeah. So I didn't think I understood it at the time either, but now that I've watched it with my growth, going through my 20s and my teenage years and getting to know my mom better as well. And I brought this up with Miss Marvel too. It's like, I understand now that it's like her mom really didn't get it probably. She's like, soccer? Like football? Really? Like, yeah. She probably just was assuming, she assumed boys, she assumed shorts, she assumed all these like terrible things. And you had brought up in your synopsis that like it's more to do with the fact that they're scared. Because her father went through his own sports
racism, essentially.
Racism that came with having a sports dream. So it's a lot of, I'm not understanding it, not expecting it from a girl, because I do think the gender roles are very heavy in this movie.
Yes.
And rewatching it, I was like, wow, this is really heavy on gender roles. And then on top of that, the racism and the worry of an immigrant parent whenever their kid is trying something new that's outside of their own comfort zone. So it's shame, but it's also fear more so.
Yes.
It's funny because obviously you're not born with fear. You inherit fear from your parents. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the times our parents don't realize that they are passing on the fear of the unknown. And I'm first generation essentially, because my mom came here when she was about 13, 14 from Jamaica. And I just know that them coming here was such a brave thing to do. So it always was such a weird dichotomy for me, that they could be that brave to come here and the challenges that they faced coming here, but then be so scared of everything that they came here for to give us in the first place, which was the opportunities, to be scared to actually take the routes to get them and do things that were outside of what they could see. And I think for us being children of immigrants, it's really hard for us because we're so enmeshed in our family and what our family values are, and that we want to make them proud because they made those sacrifices. So you kind of feel like this split of, you don't want to disappoint them, but you also know that you can do something. And it's like, in order to do it, you kind of have to defy them. It's very difficult. And some of us, it takes us a long time to get there. And some of us don't even do it. We just give in. Yeah. I feel like I want to cry because it's just like, they went through so much to come here, and you want them to know that every sacrifice, every hardship that they went through was worth it. So this movie is just like, I'm not Indian, but I could feel that.
And I'm really happy I rewatched it recently. Like, I would have rewatched it, but after, especially with Miss Marvel, especially just like growing up, I'm like 30 something now. I've definitely had my relationship with my mother. I've definitely been working on my own identity with how the South Asian Muslim immigrant, all of it affected me. And it's a combination of like you said, like the immigrant parents, but then there's like the generational trauma that like comes with it, that we as kids, it's interesting because it's like we feel the effects of generational trauma, but we don't know what caused it, right? So like we're trying to understand. I'm going to word this badly, but I know I said it in a video once, which was that like we're feeling the effects personally, but we don't understand why we're like, but our actual personal life is not like that. So it's like, okay, my parents are scared, but I have no reason to be scared. Why are my parents scared? And like, you don't really understand that as a child because you just hear them like telling you no. And you don't have that cognitive reasoning or like experience of being like, oh, my parents are doing it for this reason. It takes like decades of like learning and growing and adapting. But it just comes with, it's like, there's no textbook on being an immigrant experience, right? There's no understanding of this. And it's like, we're literally learning in real time what we're supposed to do. And that's why it gets so emotional, because it's literally our journey as well. Like their journey and how it affected us, because like we want to make them proud. We do feel this sense of guilt whenever we mess up. But at the same time, it's like we are doing our own thing because they also did their own thing, because they defied their parents and what their parents did to move here. So like they did it, so we can too. And like, it's like we're doing the same thing, but in our own way, and like coming together. Like my mom and I still go back and forth because she's just like, why are you doing it this way? I'm just like, well, you made sure that I could do this.
Right.
I'm going to make the most of it by actually, like, I don't want to live in fear. I want to like flourish. And like, there's a Hassan Minaj quote that he does in his comedies, like, our parents adapted, but we want to like, we don't want to just adapt. We want to be here.
Right.
We want to make a presence. So it's a learning curve. It's the best way to say it.
When you talked about gender norms, it's not just that we see the heavy gender norms. We see it in Juliet, her friend played by Keira Knightley, because she has like a whole other set, which is, this is why when we talk about feminism and intersectionality, why it's so important, because the same vehicles that are contributing to both narratives are coming from the same source, right? So the misogyny that is being pushed on Juliet is coming from the same source that is the racism, the gender roles, and it's almost like you come here and your parents are trying to teach you to be small so that you're not taking up space, because that's what they had to do to fit in, assimilate, to be able to navigate and not get trouble. They didn't want trouble, right?
Exactly.
And all of those things are coming from the same source. And instead of feeling like these things are separate, we have to talk about these things together to realize that's the only way we move forward, is to break past the moles of both of them. I remember like with my grandma, when I met Jackie, it was different because like I wanted to hang out with her all the time, and my grandma just like was not understanding that concept, because it was family. Like for her, friends were her family. And when she lived in New York, she had experiences in life where she couldn't trust that people were going to have her back. So the idea that I would so willingly be free to trust this little white girl down the street was like insane to her. And it took years for her to realize, oh, she ain't going nowhere. This girl's still around. Okay, I like her. I
didn't know that. That's so
yes. We met when we were 15.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm like really close to my childhood friends, so like doing a podcast together would be like the dream. Oh my God. It would be like about Bollywood movie. Yeah, you said it so well with that story that like our reality is different from the fear that they experience. We're just trying to understand it. It's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I also love that this movie had a close connection with her sister, because as a child I remember being like, oh, her sister is like a girly girl, like she doesn't get it. But like watching it now, I'm just like, wow, her sister and her had a lot of great discourse and a lot of conversations about how they're two different females that want different things in their lives. And I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge, as from woman to woman too, that not all of us want the same things, but that doesn't make any of our stories less. None of us are less feminine, none of us are less of a woman because like some of us don't want to get married or some of us do want to get married. Like we should be able to support each other in both ways. We exist.
Yeah, she doesn't, they have a really good conversation where she doesn't put her sister down because her sister wants to get married and have all those things. And she doesn't tell her sister that that's not enough or that's bad. She just says that she wants more and different things.
And her sister, it says like, don't you want this? Like, this is happiness to me.
Right.
Like, and then she's just basically saying, no, that's not my happiness. Like, it's not my truth, essentially.
Well, we've had so many good breakdowns and we haven't even
the movie. And there's so much to say about this movie too, so I'm excited.
So after we're introduced to Jess and her mom and her sister, dad's still at work at this point. They need to go shopping. Her sister does compare herself to others and her friends because she's freaking out that someone is wearing the same color as her. And so she has to go buy a whole new outfit. And all Jess needs is shoes.
Yeah.
I related to this moment so much. I was like, how dare these bitches steal my pink blush color?
When I heard that, because I'm rewatching it, I'm just like, they chose the same color as the bride. I was like, what? That is a move. You know what that move is.
Those three are the mean girls of England.
I forgot how like they're prominently in the movie too.
Yes.
So like, they're exactly the mean girls.
I love also that in this next scene that what's wonderful, especially like here and in England, that a lot of different immigrants have pockets of places where they have almost like it's like they brought their entire country and have like a mini version of it. Like I can go to a Jamaican restaurant, a Jamaican grocery store and get the things that I need. And it's just like in a pocket. Every place in every big city here in the United States, you can go and find a little China, a little Italy, a little like there's just all these little subsets, and that's where they go shopping.
And let me tell you, so like just because like how I relate to Miss Marvel and Kamala Khan so much more, our little pockets in Jersey. We have little pockets here. Like my community here is actually, I grew up in Pittsburgh, our community here was strong, but the mecca for us is Jersey. Like we go to like Edison right away. So like whenever Kamala was from Jersey, I'm like, it makes so much sense. That's where we all are. That's where
of course she is.
But yeah, that's a really good point. And as soon as she like goes to the store, she just meets the mean girls like right away.
Yeah.
That's the first people she sees. And I was like, of course they're there. Like ready to make her feel insecure. Like,
and this is also when we meet Keira Knightley's character, Jules, and her mom works in like a lingerie store. And Jules is going, she needs a sports bra. And mom is like, look, you can pump these up. And like, it's like, don't you want boobies and stuff? And Jules is like, no, like, leave me alone.
And go ahead.
I was just heard that line that she says, she's like, all the girls bought them for their daughters. I died. I was like, so well done.
Yes.
I definitely felt that because I have never been felt up more than by my own grandma making this to see what kind of bras I need to be put on. And like, she tried everything, like these boobs weren't going away and she was pissed. She bought minimizers, everything. It was driving her crazy.
Yeah.
So I had the opposite problem of Jules. Her mom was pumping her up. My grandma was dumping it down.
For me, it wasn't just my grandmother, it was my aunts. They would just be like, you should probably wear this instead. I'm like, I know. Now we've come to the terms where now, like, it took me like 30 years to be like, this is what it looks like, that we all have them. Like,
yes,
we have
exactly.
back problems. We get it.
After we're done shopping, they're walking back home and there's a pickup football game in the park with the dudes. So of course, Jess goes and starts playing.
Her sister went to go run more errands. And then
Yeah.
I think she went to go get the food her mom needed to make for dinner.
She had the 2
And
bags.
So her BFF Tony is playing with the guys. And so he's like, come play. And first of all, big ups to Tony, who deserves so much more and so many flowers for just being a stand-up friend in this movie.
And I like, for that time, I was like, this is a very well, like, healthy masculine character. Like, I just cannot get over the fact that like this character existed for 2002 and was so supportive as a male.
Yeah, and in the Indian community, I can't even imagine like that kind of character was difficult because it was not
It's
okay.
not seen. It's not seen. I mean, for the layers of like his own stuff that he was going through, but it was just such a healthy relationship, like a healthy boy-girl relationship. Watching it now, it's just like, this doesn't even exist now. Like, so it's very progressive for that movie.
And later when he comes out to her and how just like natural it is. And when he tells her, she doesn't try to tiptoe around her reaction. She just reacts and is just like, it's cool. But, you know, it was just such a natural conversation.
Yeah.
Her reaction was literally like, what are you gonna tell your mom?
Yeah.
I laughed because I'm just like, that's literally what the first thought would be. Like, did you tell your parents? Whenever one of my friends came out, I was always like, when are you gonna tell your mom? Like, that's my fear, because that would be my concern. Like, oh no, I need to talk to my mom about this. So it's very natural, very like reactive. In a good way though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a very, that whole relationship is a very healthy, understanding relationship between the two of them. So as she's playing in the park, Keira Knightley, Jules, happens to be walking through the park. And so she's kind of observing Jess play, notices she's like holding her own with the dudes, like she's a good football player. And then the next scene is Jess is at home talking to her David Beckham posters, which is Danielle's background.
That is so cute.
It's like she's praying to her God, essentially.
Exactly.
A shrine on her wall.
And she has an affinity for soccer, and it just so happens that David Beckham is the top player in her time frame right now.
True.
Yeah,
and her coach is cool and understands soccer and understands what she loves. I think if any of the Indian guys that she played in the park with actually thought it was cool that she could play soccer and treated her like an equal, you might have had some sort of interaction with them. But I also think that there's so many movies coded with, and Maria talked about this on one of her TikToks, but like, it's not as prevalent in a lot of Black movies, because usually Black movies are just Black movies, but I see it happening more now, where instead of us having like our own movies, we're having like these melting pot movies, but it's always like the white guy is the interest of the love interest for a person of color female lead. Always. It's just like, there's always some way to like wheel that in. We can't have the storyline without having the white gaze still there.
It's funny because so 2 things. I also say that like watching it now, because when I was younger, I'm just like, oh, it's the white guy. So at the time the movie came out, it was a big deal that she was with a white guy. And it was actually a good thing, because like at the time we didn't see it. We were also like, there's just like this connotation with South Asian females not being attractive, not being the one that men desire. So to see that the white man wanted her was like a huge moment for us. Like we were here for, it was Jonathan Rhys Meyers. Like we're like, yes. And
over her white girlfriend, which I definitely want to talk about that later too.
Definitely be getting into. And like I will say now watching, because at the time I was just like, oh, they're just doing the trope together so we have a moment for a win. Very Mindy Kaling move. And now watching it, I'm like, oh, they're connecting on like family. They
Yes.
a lot on family. So it's like watching it now, I realized that it wasn't just soccer and that he was cool. It's just that he was the first one that listened to her with her family problems. He's the one that talked to her parents. He's the one that says that I have a hard dad too. I also got hurt. Here's my knee bruise. Like it was
so
very
true.
much like they connected. So I actually see why they get along, and I actually see that they had reasons to be together. I would actually ship them. I'd be like, yeah, no, he's good for her. And it's so funny. I'm really happy that you brought up like your experience with Black media, because for us it was like we never were in the love interest, and we got to be the love interest, and then the white guy liked us. And it wasn't, first it was like, is it us? Is it fetishization? Is it because we're exotic?
Yeah.
And then we finally got that we could exist. So now like with Miss Marvel, the fact that she is now liking brown men, it's like, that is the progressive move. Like, it's so funny how it's like the opposite almost.
Yeah.
But like first we need to exist, and then getting the white guy was a great thing. But now we're like, okay, we're over white men. Now we want our own. Like now we want a different race. Like we just wanted to have those stories don't feel like a trope. Like at the time, it didn't feel like a trope. And rewatching it, I'm really happy that Bend Like Beckham story wasn't a trope. But there are so many times where it just feels like a trope that like, oh, the BIPOC main female gets with a white guy, and it's almost as if it's just being forced in there. So I'm glad that like both Miss Marvel and Bend Like Beckham could give more depth to these stories rather than making it just a trope for representation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There are some moments in the movie that do hurt my feelings, and we'll get to it later when we're talking about being felt as desirable. But so she's playing in the park at this point. Keira Knightley is watching her like a stalker. Mean Girls are watching her like, who the hell is that, and why is she staring at her?
They even say like, there's that white girl, like, why is she looking at her?
Yeah. And so the next scene is back at the house. She's having her conversation with David Beckham, and there is a line that mom is preparing for the engagement party. And mom also says something to the effect of like, I need to teach you how to cook. And then Jess is like, the boys don't have to learn how to cook. Like, why do I have to learn how to cook? They're out playing soccer while I'm expected to learn all of these traditional cooking practices. And so she kind of like calls out those, like you said, those gender roles that have been traditionally passed down.
Part of me is like, yes, Jess, but other part of me is like, learn how to make Goldie, girl. That shit tastes good.
I like have like, I completely agree with both. Like I agree with just like, why do I have to learn how to cook? Because it's like, it's not a sport. I want to learn how to cook for me, not for my husband.
Yes.
Like, I want to eat this good food. But I also love that at the same time with Keira Knightley's character. What's her character's name? I'm kind of
Jules.
Jules, yeah. Her mom also brings up the fact that like no one will marry her if she plays sports. It's I like noticed that this time, just like her mom's also pretty pushy about the whole marriage, like for your husband. So I'm glad that they brought that up, because it just shows like the gender in underlying misogyny is still rooted in both families.
Yeah,
exactly. Choices, and I love that. And it's funny because like the cooking is like the biggest thing to the mom, because even at the end, spoiler alert, she's just like, well, I taught you how to cook a full Indian dinner. So
yeah, but because that's what she was raised and instilled to know, that that's what you're supposed like to be. A good mother means that you are preparing your daughter to be a good wife.
And that is something my mom says all the time. Like, I don't understand. She's just like, if your in-laws don't like you, that is me as a failure. And I'm like, what? It makes no sense. Like, I'm healthy and okay. Like, that is your success. And she's like, no, your in-laws are going to be the real judges. And I'm like, this is terrible. But it's instilled by the culture, unfortunately, and it's a little rooted in misogyny as well, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah. Very much.
So we're now at the engagement party. And so Pinky, Jules or Jess's sister, is sitting there in her new sari. She got a new fit for this occasion, so she doesn't match everyone else. I love when the cell phone rings and like literally everyone is like taking out their flip phones and looking, like all the aunties and everything. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. And the flip phone part's amazing.
Yes.
It's a moment. It's definitely a time capsule moment in time for real with that.
The music up until this moment too, like the music all in throughout was great, but like the music was so nice, like the early 2000s. Like
yes.
I
I do love how they use the song Move On Up, because
that is scene too. I think they use Move On Up.
And it's such a uplifting Black song that happened during throughout like the civil rights movement. Like, so I thought it was really cool that she used that song with what she was going through.
I noticed that this time too, because I knew that Move On Up was in the movie, but it's like literally the next scene, like, because I think the tryouts are next, right after the engagement. So they play Move On Up like right then, and then they bring it back, I believe. So they used it twice.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know who Curtis Mayfield is, you should definitely look him up, by the way.
Yeah, so just prior to that is Jules is at the park again, and that's when she introduces herself to Jess and says, hey, we have this summer league going. Why don't you come try out? It's a women's league. There's going to be scouts for WUSA because England does not have a professional women's league. So this is kind of the way to get to a professional status in football/soccer, plus receive scholarships to go to college in conjunction with that. And so Jess knows her parents aren't going to be happy, but she kind of is like, let's do it. I'm just going to say that I have a summer job, and my summer job is going to be soccer.
And I love that Jules is the one that tells her to do that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I agree. I love that that's how they form their bond, but I also love that Tony, yet again, is in the encouragement, because for Jules, she doesn't think she's that great. She thinks she's just been playing with the guys, especially since her parents it's not something, it's like a hobby. It's not real. So the fact that you have here this girl I don't even know identifying that I have skills, and then I have my best friend encouraging me, I think is what makes, because if you watch how she progressively starts to get more confident in her skills, and just her making it okay for her to say, you know what, I do love this thing. It is a part of me. You slowly start to see it. And I love that it's not her putting the seeds, but it's two people, someone who doesn't know her, so that validates her in a different kind of way, and someone who does love her, both putting those seeds in. So, and
I definitely noticed it more watching it now as like an adult, because that scene whenever she does the tryout and he's like, where do you like warm up? Where are your shoes? Where's this? Like, she doesn't have any of it. And like, I was just like, wow, yeah, like she doesn't even have soccer shoes. Like, here's this girl, and he's like, what field position do you play? She's like, oh, at the park.
Yes.
Like, you can just tell that she's more of an amateur, but like not really. So like it's why would she? She's just someone who loves soccer, who plays soccer. And then for someone to be out in a league and be like, you should play this, and like she doesn't even have football, like she doesn't have the gear, she doesn't even have like the mindset of it. It's a big moment. And like her best friend being like, you're good enough is
and this is opposite than what most sports movies are like, when you have some novice, especially when it's from a male gaze. That person is usually persecuted like no other. There's always somebody on the team that is like, you're stealing my position kind of thing. There's always those vibes. But in this movie, it doesn't happen.
And I love that the female soccer team bonded with her so much. Like one of my favorite parts of this movie is all of them helping her with her sari.
Yes.
And I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just love that it was so seamless. Like, yeah, her and Jules had a moment, but her fitting into the soccer team was not a problem. And like, that's just how females are. Like, that's just how, I remember whenever I started playing basketball, I didn't have the shoes. Like, no one was mean to me. Like, they were like, you should get better shoes, and like, you should go here. It kind of reminded me of like what female relationships can be. It's a very healthy outlook on
I think a lot of movies, especially because, and Jackie and I talk about this all the time in other movies, that because there wasn't a woman writing ever, that when men write about women and women relationships, they don't understand the nuances most of the time, and they always pit us against each other. And that's not how that's not usually our experiences with each other.
And it definitely shows in the writing now. Again, like, this was something I only noticed now when my rewatch. Like, it went over my head as a child for sure.
In one of the next scenes, the coach, is it Jules that tells Jess about the coach's knee injury, and that's why he's coaching the girls' league.
Yeah.
Jules kind of formed it because there was only a men's league. And so Joe is the coach, and he blew out his knee, had to have surgery. And so now he's coaching the girls' league, and then he's a bartender in the like lounge area of the stadium. And so
I do want to talk about so like we get to the scene of them trying out. So the breakdown of the fictional team is actually real soccer players.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
So there's pretty much 3 people who aren't real soccer players, which is the actress who plays Jess, the actress who plays Jules, Keira Knightley, and the actress who plays Mel, the captain, who is actually a singer, and she is from All Saints. Chada pushed for all of them to actually train before the movie. So they were training and they got so good. I read something that Keira Knightley, the coach, he was like, if I had gotten her when she was like 10, I could so see her being a professional soccer player. She just has natural skills. And the same with Parminder. She really, really just pushed her heart out to learn how to do the bend it like Beckham kick and everything like that. And both of them hurt themselves quite a bit training.
I can
but
imagine.
I think they broke some toes and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of.
I played soccer for 2 years and like blew my knee. So well, not blew my knee because I just hurt my knee. But yeah, so I can imagine.
It's an endurance sport. I couldn't make it. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I know.
They only took me because I could run fast. So I was like, okay. Like, I don't know how to kick a ball, but okay.
I just didn't like wait a minute. I finally get here and we got to run back this way. I'm tired.
My husband was a soccer player, and his sister told me like we would go to the games and we would sit and hold our breath and wait for the red card, like every single game. Because he's very passionate and he was team captain. So if it wasn't even if like a call was made against him, if anything happened to one of his teammates, he was like up in a face yelling. And so then they're like, well, we've been here 5 minutes. Let's pack our stuff and go home because Ken's not in the game anymore.
That's so funny.
So the next scene is we see Jules at home in the back garden playing with her dad. They're playing a pickup game of soccer or football. And mom is like, she says, well, Sporty Spice is the only one without a fella.
Yes.
Like, mom, give it a break. Like,
I love that the Spice Girls are so heavy in this movie.
Yes.
I love it. They bring them up a few times. It's great.
Posh made a song for their Spice Girls songs on the soundtrack. Posh made the song. Mel C, there's 2 Mel C songs in here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And one of her songs she recrafted it to fit the narrative of the movie. It's when Jules and Jess go shopping. It's one of Mel C's songs.
Oh, okay.
It's called Independence Day.
And let's be honest, I'm gonna say it right here, right now, that Mel C is the better singer of the entire group. I said it.
It's fine.
Very fair. It's very fair.
Yes.
I love that they made songs. Like I love that she was part of it. Is because I know they referenced them, but I didn't know that they sang the songs too. That's great.
The next scene is more practice, and Joe gives her boots in a kit.
So proud of you. Look at my girl.
Yeah, good job.
I can learn. So they're doing drills, but Jess is in the bleachers. So Joe goes over to talk to her, is like, why aren't you doing drills with the rest of the team? And so she tells him this story, which is actually Parminder's story of she has a large scar on her upper thigh, and she was making beans on toast and caught her pants on fire. And so she was left with this scar. And I love that. And the whole reason for the scene is because the shorts for their jerseys are short and you can see the scar, but they made the choice to weave that story into the movie instead of trying to avoid shots where you can see it or covering it with makeup. They kind of own that piece of Parminder in the story.
And And I love that they used it as a way to connect the characters and grow the
Yes.
characters too. So I love when they do those things.
Yes. And so she's like, and you can sense that there is kind of shame been put upon her from her family. Her parent, her mom, especially, is always like, you need to wear long shorts. You can't show your legs, things like that. And so Joe just says like, hey, I have a scar too. Like, it's okay. Does it affect your playing? If not, get out on the field and do drills. Like,
and I just want to also, like, that's scene is beautiful, but you know me, petty all day. So I want to talk about Jules. This is the first time we get a glimpse that Jules is getting a glimpse that she catching the vibe in, right?
Yeah.
Between the two of them. And she's thirst trapping for sure all the time.
The whole time.
Thirsty. Somebody needs to get that girl some water.
and Jess asks her about it. Like,
does.
do you like the coach? And she's like, no, I mean, like,
just be honest.
We can't do anything anyway because it's not allowed because he's our coach. But like, even then, like, whatever. And it's like, girl, if you like him, just say you like him.
Yeah.
And then
But
you can't
Jess
get mad at Jess later.
Jess doesn't speak girl too. Like, if Jess spoke
It's
girl,
true.
she would have known. She would have known.
And they show that because like even whenever she was talking to the mean girls earlier, whenever they're like, who's that boy? Like, are you like, or like your boyfriend over there? Like she was just very much like staring at them, like not interacting, not knowing what to say. She's just like, ew, no, I don't like boys. Like it's just very much that like you could tell that Jess does not have the social nuances essentially.
Yes.
To pick up on those things.
She just hasn't gotten there yet. And sometimes that happens. Like when most guys and girls have that split, when we both start liking guys or whatever, she didn't. She was still acting like when we were little and we could all just play with each other and it's not a big deal. She doesn't have that mindset. And I have her best friend is a guy, and her probably only female kind of relationships that she has is with her sister, who kind of is her translator.
And her sister and like the girls around her are very open about the relationship, like their feelings. Like her sister was dating someone and was very obviously in love with someone. Even those girls were like, I like that guy, I fancy him. British. So she probably was like, if I ask Jules and she says no, usually girls tell me when they like someone. So her normal association is like, if she liked him, she would have told me.
And that's cultural as well, right?
Yes,
like
for sure.
I find that a lot, especially in the Black community, we're way more vocal about things, or in the way that we have that shorthand. And when you get into Caucasian society, the rules for white women are taught very differently a lot of the times. So that the direct approach is not something they're allowed, or we're taught to be allowed to do. So that also can cause that cultural gap. Like you're not allowed to openly say that. I don't know.
I think that might be true too, because I was thinking about like growing up, because I grew up around brown girls, like Pakistani, Muslim girls mostly. And I was like, we were very vocal. Like we just kind of said things. Even if we like the same guy, we'd be like, oh, sorry. Like we would talk about it. So like that is probably true. I've never,
well, not including Jackie, because that bitch gonna tell you.
No, but I
it's
like
true.
That's good. I'm very much about being open, because I crush on everyone though too. You've seen my TikToks.
Yeah, me, I'm like, that's mine. Don't touch it.
Sometimes I have to be like, Danielle, calm down.
So don't try to tame me.
But I will say with Jules, so there's a lot of things that I missed as a child while watching this, but I picked that up as a child too. I'm like, girl was thirsty. Like that was something even as a child, I was like, she really likes him. So her pretending like, I don't know, she should have just been honest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She wasn't hiding it well.
No. It just so happened that Jess is just not real good at reading the signs.
Yeah.
And there was a connection. Like it was pretty, I don't know, it was just pretty obvious. He went to our family like
multiple times.
I would just be like, he's going to visit us, like an Indian family. Like that's a huge step for a coach to take.
Yeah.
It's not just coach anymore. Like she should have picked up on some stuff too, I think. I think it's a cultural divide too as well.
And so Joe does give her the confidence she needs to go out and finish practice. And then on her way home, she's walking through the park and she starts playing with the guys that are always in the park. And then mom sees, and mom is not happy about those short shorts.
I would be devastated too. I'd run away.
I love that she did have confidence though when the guys started making fun of her, because obviously they've never seen her leg.
Mhm.
And she's just like, whatever. And she doesn't get
Shy
insecure.
away.
Like after she's empowered once,
Mhm.
it's almost like she's a video game character. She levels up. She don't go back down. She just keeps going.
Yeah.
She's an independent woman, volume 1.
Until her mom shows up. And
Yes.
Then it's a whole nother story.
Because the boys start kind of teasing her and stuff, and they're kind of like picking her up and doing bro stuff. And mom sees and she's like, your legs are out, boys are touching you. What is going on?
Shame on the family.
Yes.
And you're talking about playing this football. Like, what the hell are you wearing? It's bad.
And so Jess does try to be honest as much as she can and tells mom about the team. And her mom's just like, you've played enough for your life. Like, you can just stop now. You've played enough.
I'm laughing because it was like because my parents are like, you can do this after medical school. You can do this then. And I was like, what is with this like reserve of like, you did enough. Like, I remember like growing up, like you had fun on Saturday. You don't have to have fun for the rest of the week. But that's exactly it.
It's almost like, why are you asking for so many things? Like, it's too much. It's too much.
Like your time log is enough for soccer. You're
right.
So she quickly realizes, like,
she's really good at lying.
She gets caught so much though. Do you notice that? Like in most movies, you get caught like once, and then but this bitch was getting caught like every day.
And she kept going though. Like good for her. She kept going.
This is when, so after that interaction with her mom, she's kind of down because she was trying to be honest with her parents and it didn't work out. And Tony says, like, you have to do what makes you happy. And if that's kind of not telling them, then that's what you should do, maybe.
Go, Tony. I want him to find a nice boyfriend.
I know.
He deserves everything.
Yes.
There's a moment where he looks like that. It was really cute.
There's a moment at the wedding where he's dancing with someone and they're like, I was like,
that was one of my favorite. I will say a moment for Jules, because Jules also, like, my mom hates that I play soccer. I still play it. And it was very much like, okay, like it always is nice to hear that, like, especially from like if you are like a BIPOC female, like whenever you hear like another white girl being like, yeah, I do it too, and you're like, oh, okay, it's normal. Like it just, whenever Jules says like, my mom doesn't approve, I play soccer anyway, I'm sure that gave Jess like a lot.
It's because you're so othered all the time in white spaces. So when someone else who's white is experiencing something, like, to feel that normal.
And I always think the mother-daughter relationship, I feel like sometimes, I don't know, like talking about my mom, because I'm just like, I don't know how other people act with their mother. So hearing people having the similar relationships makes me feel like, oh, okay, so you get it, like having this type of mother who's really not intrusive, but like very involved in my life. Because usually it's not normal for mothers to be like, who are you talking to? What are you doing? Where are you going? Like, so my mom still does that to me, and I'm like 30 something. So
it never stops.
I'm 40 and my mom still has Find My iPhone for me.
But Jackie's mom is really, like, Jackie's mom was the cool mom growing up.
Amazing.
Like, her mom was the safe haven. We all can hang out there. We could tell her anything. It was just, but not when you watch TV shows and movies, there's like the cool mom, but she's like giving you drugs and stuff. Not like that. No, just
the cool mom that actually cares.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, mom just knows where I am all the time. She has called me on the phone before and been like, you're at such and such restaurant. Why didn't I get an invite? I like that restaurant. I like Ma.
And like growing up now, like I understand that like when mothers are intrusive, it's a form of love. It's just like you're not used to it growing up.
Yeah.
So it's like whenever you hear other mothers like that, you're like, wow, your mom. I didn't realize how young Jess was supposed to be in this movie either. Like she's pre-college. So I was like, it was probably her still learning that like, hey, my relationship with my parents is very similar to other people. I never knew that because I was just always in a Panjabi like brown space.
Yeah, exactly. So this next scene is kind of a montage. It's her practicing, playing games, beginning to learn how to cook from her mom. We do get this really awesome scene where it's like Jules is really excited about something and goes to hug Joe and it's not reciprocated at all. And I'm like, girl, pick the hint. And Jules's dad surprises her and builds like this thing out of wood where it has different like areas to kick goals in and stuff. And so he's very appreciative. And I can never tell if it's like, I wish I had a son or just like supporting Jules in her interests. Like that never really is fleshed out.
I think with him, I think he just wants her to be happy. And I love the parallels that we get from both families. We see the same kind of very intrusive mothers and the gender norms that they're pushing, but only because they really want their children to be successful and happy, but they do it in not the best communicative ways. And then both dads, one of the things that Chada talked about when she decided to make this movie, her father had passed away and she really wanted to make this movie as a tribute to her dad, which at the end you see that it is written to him, but also that in so many South Asian movies and characters of fathers, they were always shown as very like harsh and domineering, and she wanted to show like what her relationship with her father was, and that lovingness and that tenderness that she knew like fathers could be. And I read a lot of articles and so many people talked about how much they loved that aspect and how it just made it okay for the dad to be more affectionate and loving. And I thought that was sweet.
And fun fact about the father that plays the father, his name's Anupam Kher. He's a very famous actor from Bollywood, and he's one of my favorites. So like choosing him, because he's a great dad. He's like one of the perfect, he's my favorite dad in Bollywood. So like the fact that she casted him, she was doing her research to get that, because he always plays the supportive, loving father. So she made sure to get the right one. And my dad is a mix between Kamala Khan's father and uncle here. And he's a little harsh on me because of the stuff he's gone through, but at the same time, like, you're a star, you're marvelous at the same time. So it's adorable, but I just love that both families, Jules and Jess, come from love. Like they still grow in a different way, but the mothers are just, like you said, want them to be successful and happy. So they're a little intrusive. And the fathers are like, I saw her, Jules' father, just like you said, trying to support her and loving her. And I really just love the fact that they showed how love can exist in a similar way, even if it's in a different like color. So
right. And in our next scene, mom calls Pinky and asks her to pick Jess up from her part-time job, her fake job.
Yeah, I want to remember that Tony also says like, oh yeah, Pinky sneaks around with him, so you can sneak around with soccer.
Yeah.
When we see it, I was like, oh my gosh, Tony like looking out, like thinking about it that way.
I was just confused, like if Jess didn't have a real job, weren't her parents eventually going to ask for like where the money is?
Yeah, she was a bold lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bold
especially lie. Because later on Jess asks for money for shoes.
And she was really dumb in that scene for not hiding her soccer shoes. Yeah. She should know her family by now.
Yeah, like one thing Miss Marvel has taught everyone is that we know how to lie. We just know how to cover our tracks. Like, so it's just like she should have known. This also just shows that Jess is still learning like a female like decorum, essentially, of like knowing to be stealth about things, not giving some truths, not all the truths.
Yeah.
And in that scene, like the sister pulls out, it's obviously an Adidas box. Yeah. And I thought for a second, because she's looking at her parents who are not paying attention, I thought she was going to like hide them or like put them back in the bag and kind of pretend like she didn't see them. Instead, she just opens that box and pulls out the soccer cleats.
Yeah, that girl
Yeah, she also had money for two shoes. Just get a cute pair of shoes. If she would have gotten the cute pair of shoes, her mom would have not cared about the boots.
Yeah.
Like, this is like me as an older person being like, hey, teenage Jess, this is what you have to do next time.
And if she, like, the shoes, it didn't matter if she didn't like them or not. The sari would have covered them. So, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I remember it just literally, it would have just been to please her parents. It would have been a nice brownie points. Like, this is what you have to do. Fun, like, South Asian girl vibes. You do one nice thing and think that they want you to do, then you can get away with something else that you want to do. Like, you have to balance things. This is just like teenage 101. Like,
I know, like, how do you not lie?
So when Pinky gets home, Jess is already home. Mm-hmm. And so Pinky does cover for her, and she's like, oh, I had just missed her. Her boss said she had just left to walk home.
Pinky's a good sister.
She is.
Yeah.
And then we get the boob measuring scene.
The way we quote this scene, this is one of those things that, like, my friends and I always quote it for some reason.
And so, like, Pinky's like tighter, like cinch him up, and Jess is like a little looser. And the mom's reaction is like to Pinky is like, no, you can't have those on display, blah, blah, blah. And then when Jess asks for it to be a little looser, she's like, you don't want to be walking around in a bag. Like, so there are just different expectations even for each daughter.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's funny because, like, now, because I do get measured, I understand, because, like, you don't want to loose because then it looks bad.
Yeah.
And, like, but then your mom was like too tight. She's like, then you look like too much. So it is like a weird, funny thing. It's like, is it the measurement? Is it because of the daughters and how they grew up? It's like so many layers of nuances. Like, there's definitely a difference. Who knows what the mom was thinking?
Yeah.
She could have been thinking so many different things at this moment. Like, Jess will only get a husband if it's tight. Pinky already has a husband. She doesn't need to show this off anymore. Or one daughter's a little slutty, the other one's not slutty enough. Like, it could be so
I love that also that it shows the dynamics of, like, Pinky's family. And so obviously there's so much diversity when it comes to India and Pakistan and just the dynamics there. But then it's funny how those things travel in the immigration standpoint, that although these people are no longer in their towns, in the caste system of things, the hierarchy of things, that they're still bringing some of those aspects to their lives in England. And how the mom complains, like, that the family thinks that they're better, and it's just very prevalent in that communication and trying to show off. And also the way of how all the planning really for the wedding is put on the female side of the family, and how it's an event. It's not one day, it's multiple days of different things happening.
And I've said this in one of my videos about, so I do love South Asian weddings, obviously, but I don't like the air around them. So that's why I say I don't like weddings, but it's because of the whole competition feeling. And I think the movie starts off with, like, you know how we were saying, like, how dare they wear pink? That's just how it is. It's like a competition feeling. Like, I think they were wearing color contacts, and now Pinky was like, I can't wear my color contacts. That it may not be the same type of, like, hierarchy, elitist system that existed back in our own countries, but the competition definitely has it's rooted in that, for sure. That the sense of, like, we make more money, or we are going to show bigger display to show we have more money, and that we're better because we didn't do this. So it's very interesting how it shows up. And a wedding is the perfect time to do it, because that is when it comes out.
And that's the funny thing, that I feel like it's so much in even just, I mean, so many different cultures have that same thing. It's like we watch Crazy Rich Asians, you watch all these My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It's just like, you see it's embedded in almost every culture that happens. Both
movies had weddings. It's
I
love that it comes out in weddings. It's like, it's a nice way that we all, like, bond, like, we're also, like, catty and little petty during weddings too. Cool.
It's because it's the most stressful time, and there's so many cultural things that come out in weddings. And I think
the family all gets together, and that's when, you know, things just come out.
I just want to drink when my family has weddings.
I've been a bridesmaid or, like, a maid of honor for so many weddings, and now I want to elope. And I told my family, I'm like, I'm running away to get married. And my mom's like, okay, we're going to come with you. And I'm like, no.
Maria, good fucking luck. You are
I know
not.
it's not gonna happen.
You're not.
I'm also an only child and I'm the only girl. And the only girl on both sides of my family that hasn't been married. So my parents have literally planned my elopement. They're like, we're gonna invite this. It's a 500 people elopement. I'm like, this is not what I was talking about.
I need to find a husband so I can give my grandma something to show off for, one. And two, Jackie has not experienced a full Jamaican crazy wedding.
Oh gosh, that's gonna be, you have to experience that for sure.
Yeah. So this is the scene that we were talking about earlier. Jess asks for shoe money to get shoes for the wedding. And she also needs to buy boots or cleats. And so her and Jules have a lovely day of shopping. They go to a pub and she gets home. Mom's like, why you smell like an ashtray? Where have you been? And Pinky, in typical sister rivalry, snatches the shoe bag, like, let me see what you bought, pulls out these chunky, like they look like nurses' shoes.
So ugly.
So ugly. They're like loafers.
Yeah.
And she was supposed to get 2 pairs of nice shoes. She uses the other money for the cleats. Like we said, dumb enough not to take them out of the bag. And she's found out because Jules has promised to let her borrow another pair of shoes because, again, multiple days this wedding is going on. So she needs multiple shoes.
Yeah. She got found out, but she kept going.
She's still alive.
Yeah, I would, if I was her parents, I'd be like, why do you need boots? Like, they didn't ask any follow-up questions.
Yeah, they're just like, that's weird.
And her dad, like, at one point, it's like her mom who's really mad, but at one point the dad is like, he ends up putting his foot down because her mom puts a foot down because she's like, you've been spoiling her, no more. And he gets his ass handed to him and roasted for that.
And I like that change because like the mom is very much like looking at it from her perspective of like, I don't understand what my daughter's doing. She's playing soccer. This won't get her married. She needs to cook Indian dinner. Whereas the father, when he sees it, he's just like, it's literally trauma response. Like he's triggered. So I really love the change because it's very different. Like it's not just the father like, oh, my wife is mad. It's like her father's like, this happened to me. This is about to happen to you. I'm trying to protect you. And it's a twofold way of like dealing with something when it comes to the immigrant experience. And it was a very profound choice that they added, both of them.
And so the next day they're at practice and Jess is filling Jules in on what happened and stuff. And Joe's like, you're talking too much.
This moment,
go
character for him.
Yep. Joe's like, go run laps. Yeah. Like, we're not chatting. We're at practice right now. Mm-hmm. So she kind of proves a point. And like, even after the girls are like walking into the locker room and stuff, she's still running laps. And he's like, you can stop now. She's like, no, I have one more to do. But he notices that she's hurt her ankle and she's twisted it. Oh, you need to stop. Like, this is how I hurt myself, was trying to prove something to my dad. You don't have to prove anything to me. Mm-hmm. Stop. Let me look at it. And this is another scene where Jules is kind of noticing what's happening.
Yet.
That boy is mine. Not yours, but mine.
It was very much a Brandy and Monica situation.
Yeah. They should have played that song.
Yes. That's a TikTok, Danielle. Just that song with all of like Jules's side eyes.
Yeah. That is a TikTok for sure.
And the next scene is Jess at Jules's house in her room. She sees that Jules has a picture of her and Joe, and it looks like they're like embracing, but really it's like Jules is like, that was taken at like our last championship game or something. Yeah. So it's a very congratulatory like hug situation, but Jules kind of, I think, envisions it, like puts energy into it being something more than it is.
The fact that she has a frame picture.
That's what she's doing in her closet with the picture at night. Just like rocking.
Like a Helga Pataki, like shrine to this. Like,
yes.
No, it's when I was like, watching, I'm like, it's kind of weird that you have a framed picture of your coach.
Yeah.
Her parents should have been paying more attention.
That's the other thing. Like, whenever they're like later in the game, they're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "How do you not know who that is?"
Yeah.
As a framed picture of this man.
And then Jules's mom comes in and she has like all of these preconceived notions of like the types of food that Jess eats and all of these like cultural things. And Jules kind of calls her out and is like, you're embarrassing yourself. Like, just stop talking. Mm-hmm. And like the mom means well, it's just, she's just kind of ignorant. It's like when Danielle went and had linguine.
Yeah, I was mad. I'm still upset about that.
Yeah, I really love that. Like, heard that moment. I think I can't remember what exactly her mom said, but there's something about like gender roles and like you know, a wife and like getting a fella and like getting married soon. And then Jules is like, she's on the football team with me, and her mom's face is just like,
damn it.
Like, you didn't like, you defied stereotypes.
Now Jess is heading home. She's at the bus stop. They're laughing at the mom and they're kind of like leaning into each other and holding on to one another because they're laughing so hard.
And the auntie network is thick.
Yup.
So that auntie, her head swiveled so hard as she passed the bus stop, looking at what Jess was doing with this boy in quotes.
When I originally saw the movie, I didn't think she thought it was a boy. I thought she thought they were lesbians. Mm-hmm. And I really also thought she was going to fall out the window of the car the way she was breaking her neck to see.
Yeah, they love gossips.
So by the time Jess gets home, she's waiting for the bus to go home. By the time she gets home, Auntie's already like sitting down with tea, spilling it to mom and saying, and it happens. Is it Teet's parents?
Yeah.
That see it. And so they're like, this is inappropriate. She's making out on the corner with some white boy. Like, this is not okay. Like, wedding is off. And so now Pinky's hysterical. Parents are like, we don't know what's going on.
I remember when I was younger, I hated Pinky, but like watching it, I'm like, I'm there for Pinky. Like, she just like, she was supportive until it hurt her, and then she threw her under the bus.
Yes. As any other sister would.
Yeah. I love how the uncles are just like, hey, I'm trying to look out, bro. And the mom's like, stop talking to him. Like,
poor Jess is so confused. She walks into this chaos and it's like Pinky's hysterical, ratting her out, telling her parents that she's still playing football. The wedding's off. And Jess is just like, I went to a friend's house and I come home to this, like, and it's all my fault somehow. Like, what is going on?
I got shoes for the wedding.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did try to warn her in the beginning that this whole process of the wedding and stuff, that there were so many eyes on them, and just like to be low key.
And this is might be a cultural thing. Unfortunately, the culture is a little like, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of eyes on the families, especially in that moment for the bride and groom. So like everyone's involved and it's everyone's business. So yeah, I think this is a cultural thing coming out that like, so yeah, you're right. She was told. So Jess this is the worst time for Jess to join a soccer team.
Yeah. So now the engagement's off. Jess has been outed that she does not, in fact, have a summer job. She is still playing soccer, even though the cleats she just bought weren't like a tip off earlier that maybe we're still playing.
No background questions.
Also, while at Jules's house, backing up a little bit, this is when Jess asks Jules if she likes Joe. Yeah. And she says that Joe can't date players. And then Jess is kind of like, I hope I end up marrying an Indian boy like him too. And like the way Jules reacts, like she like guffaw laughs at that. And Jess is just kind of like, what's so funny?
Yeah. Jules has a weird line too, that like, I can't date him because it's like off limits, but I hope I find someone exactly like him.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
are you Adele? Like, what? It's
But
like,
then-
you like him.
But then when Jess says literally almost the same thing, but says she wants an Indian version, Jules gives her side eye.
Yeah.
It's really, it's very interesting, that whole dynamic.
And I don't know if this dynamic necessarily fits this film per se, but I have in the past been friends with white girls, and there has been this weird thing that has happened. And it happened when I was like, especially when I was younger and like learning to like boys and stuff like that. And there is almost like a set expectation that if a white guy was to approach a group of us or two of us, that the inclination would be to date or to talk to the white girl. So there would be moments if the white guy dared to talk to me, it was just like fucking culture shock. And this is a person who's supposed to be like your friend, and they are having a visceral moment watching this situation that you can't even control happen.
And then there's like a layer of like, they try to be supportive by being like, oh, they're into this, and like they're trying to be supportive by saying like this is their thing. And it's like, or they could just be like interested in me without it being a whole thing. Yeah.
And so when I watched how Jules reacted to that, there unfortunately is that layer that I think so many of us probably don't even realize exist, and that so many people don't even realize that it's there. It's that bias, that racism that you don't even realize it's deep rooted inside.
And kind of begs the question, which I had as a child and one of my rewatches, that like, do you wonder if Jules thought that Joe would never go for Jess? Like there's no, like I wonder, I couldn't help but feel like, oh, Jules probably thought like there's no way. And like I still felt that way now we were watching it, that she probably never expected it.
And it's not, and it part of it's not really her fault. I mean, society as a whole has taught her that she is the beauty standard. So how can that be?
And in the same regards, Jess probably also didn't assume that Joe would go for her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Also been told that she is not the beauty standard. So like, we don't expect it to happen to us either. So she probably, I bet Jess was confused the whole time when Joe even kissed her.
Yeah.
So
I'm not confused when it happens to me because I am that girl. But for her, I totally get it.
Yeah, I same. But as a child, I got it. As an adult, I'm like, get yours.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever like really talked about that in mixed spaces before, because I think growing up, it was almost made to feel like I was being paranoid about it, but you could feel it, you could see the reaction of it. Mm-hmm. And I think I didn't understand it at the time. And it's funny because I actually came home from an incident at school from one of those situations, and I was crying because like it caused me to have a falling out with a friend. And my aunt just randomly happened to be in town, and my mom and her had like this whole conversation with me about it. And it was just like a whole other layer of things. And I didn't fucking had to be like, I have to carry now that I didn't even think about.
Yep.
And I mean, going back to what we were talking about, like how important like media representation is, this whole idea of like, we don't expect to be the love interest. It's not a conversation that's normal. I don't think I've ever had that conversation with someone. So it's very understandable that doesn't come up in mixed spaces, let alone in general, because there's never been a ground for it to stand on.
And there's so many nuances, like we're talking about white and other people of color, but then it happens within our own cultures with the colorism aspect of things. You know, like it's almost like a scale, right? Like me being lighter skin is experiencing this sort of internal racism stuff happening, but then on the flip side, in my own community, I have to deal with bullshit of the fact that men within my community are making myself and my color a beauty standard and trying to pit me and a darker skinned girl against each other. And having to make sure that I recognize that this is happening so that I do not feed that system and hurt someone who is darker than me having to deal with this entire system that we didn't create, but I do have power in how I contribute to it.
And our first exposure is as teenage girls. Like we don't even know. Like we're just fed it, and then we're like literally dealing with it, trying to figure it out now in pieces. Because like I remember like a first time, this is one of my solid memories, that a brown boy, Pakistani boy to me said, he's like, why do you care so much like if you're darker or not? And I'm light skinned. Like I still had to be lighter skinned than my light skin, which is just the fact of colorism. But I was just like, well, it's because we've been conditioned that men don't want dark girls. And I was like, what do you feel about that? And he's like, I don't want my babies to be dark. I was like 16. And it's like, it's one of those things that has stayed with me forever. And it's like, I didn't know how to navigate it then. Like, that's what we're conditioned to believe. And like now trying to break that down and have those spaces to discuss it. It's a lot of society, and the way we perpetuate it is just, there has to be a way to break at some point, but
but in this movie, the part that always stung for me, when I look at movies, when it's any people of color that are getting their moment, for me as a Black person, I feel like it's still a win for us too. You know, that's how 100%. I look at it. When I watch this movie, I automatically feel like Jess is me and me is Jess, right? When she's in the moment in the locker room and they're talking about dating guys, and Jess talks about how she has to date an Indian guy. Mm-hmm. And when she says Black guy, no, like the way that in which she reacts. And there are so many friends that I have that are people of color, and their family has taught them the same thing. So not only are we dealing with colorism within our own communities, we as Black people in other communities of color are taught to be at the bottom of the totem pole, essentially. And that it's not like we're the worst of the worst that you could get.
Mm-hmm. And I recognize that. And it's one of the things like I said, I think earlier, which is the whole, like the embarrassment of like knowing how our families are, but at the same time being persecuted at the same time, because like after that, she's like, Muslim, forget about it. And like, as a Muslim person, right? So it's like, I know that I'm also persecuted, but I also know that we persecute Black people at the same time. And it's just like, we need to just be able to be open and discuss as a Muslim community, whenever we experience any racism, Islamophobia, we didn't think like, oh, we should lift up Black voices at the same time. Like we should be able to, I know there's like a lot of nuances and we all have all these fighting and battles, and this is so tangential from the movie.
Yeah.
But it's just saying that like, we have to understand that one win is all of our wins, because in a country and in this world and a system where we're all othered, they see us all as other. So othering ourselves within these spaces doesn't help any of us. We have to understand that we're together, and dealing with the hurt and pain that comes with it is only going to happen by me addressing it. So like in that moment, we should be like, yeah, that was really fucked up that they said that. And we shouldn't have said it. But at the same time, it's fucked up that we grew up listening to it. And I want to call out my family for also saying it. It's like, I want to call out the movie, but I also want to call out my own teaching and my own community for saying this too. And I want us to be better. So it's like, the movie was really honest at that point. And it sucks that it was honest, but at the same time, it's like, this is how we grow and get better, is by talking about it. It just sucks that we're so stuck in this idea of like, no, we're different though, but like we were also hurt though, so we need to focus only on our hurt and our differences, rather than build the connections of like, hey, maybe the community that is next to us that we don't think is like us also was hurt, and maybe if we build together and like see their wins as our wins, we could be better and like stronger together and heal and move mountains together. So that's like more my adult perspective, but it's frustrating because it's like, how do you even acknowledge a culture that doesn't even address their own colorism or their own own issues of like Islamophobia or Hindu phobia or like Sikh phobia and racism towards Black communities or Latin communities or Asian communities? It's just, and I'm speaking from like a South Asian perspective, but it's a lot. We have a lot of work to do, but it's just
absolutely.
Media representation, I think, is the best way to start it, unfortunately, because history is not going to do it for us.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I still think this movie is a win. It's just that one scene, it's the only time in the movie that really takes me out of the movie, because it, like, I think the first time I saw it, it just hurt. Mm-hmm. Now I'm just like, I understand the reality of it, and it's annoying, but again, it's representation, and I appreciate it.
I respect it because it exists. Racism is not solved by saying you're not racist.
Yeah. Right.
It's solved by saying, hey, I might be. What do I do to fix it?
True.
And I think within the scene, like I think it was probably done as like a catharsis, like, okay, I am admitting all of these things about my upbringing and what I've been told so that I can start to be better from it. And like, obviously at the end, she ends up dating Joe, who is outside her faith and her race. So it's kind of, it feels like laying all the cards on the table. This is what I've always been told. And I'm afraid my family won't accept me if I don't do anything but this box that I'm placed in. But I mean, I'm already playing soccer, which they don't want me to do. So if I can get them to accept that, maybe we can start making those changes and accepting.
I also want to bring up like the parents that they're talking about, they're the boomer generation.
Mhm.
They're still boomers. Like no matter what, like, the boomer generation, like we're millennials or Gen Z or like Gen X, like we have a responsibility to call our parents out for the stuff they taught us for.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe she was taught that, but like her addressing and realizing maybe my parents are wrong. Like they're low-key racist. Like maybe they're wrong about soccer too. Like, it's
exactly
important for all millennials, to all of us, to be responsible, like addressing our own biases that we were raised on, even if it came from our parents. Like because our parents don't know, our parents are human. They probably got it wrong. So
yeah, they got it real wrong.
Hey everyone, I'm Simone.
And I'm Bria.
And we're from Roll Call, a podcast where two friends gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years through their blockbuster hits. Each season, Bria and I embark on an IMDb deep dive through the career of a different actor. Oh, but wait, does that mean you watch every movie?
Yes, that means every movie. Our first season, we watched every Jennifer Lopez movie, and our second season will focus on Will Smith, and we hope you join us on our journey through his career highs and lows. So follow us at Roll Call Pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and on wherever you get your podcasts.
The next scene is Pinky is sneaking out with T2.
Are they at the airport?
yeah.
They're in his car and they're arguing because
Thank
she's
you.
like, you need to tell your freaking mother.
And there's
like,
this really sad song montage when this is
Yes.
happening. I remember because I know the song.
And so Jess is not going back to practice. She's missed about 2 practices so far. She's trying to be the good daughter because she could see that her sister's in pain. I do love that fact that in this montage stuff, you see them on the bed. You see her consoling her sister. So even though her sister was mad at her, they're still, you could tell they're still okay in this scene. And then yes, Joe asks Jules, like, where the hell is your mate, as he says. And this is when he's like, okay, I'm gonna go try to go over there, because he didn't know that Jess was lying to her parents. And they've been invited to a game in Germany.
Yeah.
Yes, because Jess had told him that her parents were okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so Joe tries to talk to the parents. He does tell them she has tremendous potential, and he's pretty much shut down and said she needs to respect her elders, and like whatever we say go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her parents are like not there for it. And I think this is when the dad tells the story of him coming to this country, and that he used to be on the cricket team in his home country, and how he's treated when he gets to the UK and the racism that he experiences. And as he's telling the story, you could just so feel the actor, so much pain is pouring out as he's telling the story. And like when you hear the story, you're like, this is, to me, when I was younger, I was like, this is stupid, like it's cricket. But now that I'm older and I understand, like, those wounds are deep for him, something that he loved, and he could no longer do it because he has his turban and just so many different levels of racism. And
for something that was probably a super safe space for him, something that he excelled at, he loved, to all of a sudden be turned against him and is like, you can't play here.
Cricket is like the game in Pakistan and India, right? Like you're right. It's the safe space. It's the home. My dad was also a cricket captain. Like I was forced to learn how to play cricket. So like probably for him to be like, I'm at home here, this is probably the one thing he could identify with in England, and to be othered there. I was really surprised that they chose to do that there in that movie. Because I'm just like, it's a really powerful moment. And it was a tone shift. It was so I was very surprised, but I'm really happy that they did, because I know that the racism that exists in England when it comes to South Asians was earlier than America, because 9/11 kind of catapulted that. But that, in England, it was very much prevalent, and we had heard those stories. So they made a choice, and I'm very proud of them. But it also just shows that the father is so hung up on what he went through. It almost alienates you, right? Like whenever you let your trauma alienate you to the point that you don't even recognize it with other people, or even if it starts to exist in a space that you could recognize it, you just go back to the fact that what happened to you with his daughter. I don't know. It's a very deep moment. We could dissect it for days. I'm happy that they chose to add that in the story.
And so Jess does get perspective of kind of why dad keeps saying, no, you can't do this. But they are playing in Germany this Saturday. And Jess is like,
how does she go to Germany without the family realizing it?
Germany is not, I mean,
it's not close. You got to take a plane.
It's international.
Yeah. I mean, you could take a train. They did take a plane though.
Yeah.
You have to have a passport. Hopefully she did.
It's an overnight trip.
Yeah.
Do you need passports in Europe, or can you travel from?
You do.
Okay.
I think
so you have to have it on you. I know when we were traveling on the train and went like from one country to another, I think there was only like one country that actually like went through the car and checked everyone's passport and stamped it. Most of the time it's kind of like an understanding that if you're on a train traveling, you should have documentation on you.
Because I was just thinking so many people in Europe are going from one country to the next. It's like us in the States, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Her getting away with it is still ridiculous. Even if it was like within England, the fact that she had an overnight trip and they had no like backup plan, her mom didn't call. I'm just so over. I cannot believe she got away with that.
Yeah. So the plan is her and her sister cover for one another, and they're going to sleep at their cousin's house. The auntie network again is going to get back to mom.
Yeah.
Well, the rules Pinky tells her sister is that she has to call twice a day to make sure that all is good. And the only reason that she gets caught is because Jess's dad reads the newspaper and there's a freaking picture of Jess and the entire team talking about going to Germany.
Yeah.
And that's when he tells, because Jess has just called the mom and says everything is good. And this is like the only time in the movie where you see him really get firm with his wife. He's like, call her back right now.
Yeah.
And that's when she gets caught. But we don't really see anything else happening with that till the next day, because now Jess and the team, they go and play their game. Jess misses a penalty kick. Yeah. And the team, again, is still very happy and nice to her. Like, they don't give her a hard time about it. She's hard on herself. And they decide to go out. Of course, Jess has no freaking night clothes. But again, the team rallies and get her some hotness. Jules ain't got no shirt on.
She's wearing a bandana, a spangled bandana as a shirt.
The most 2000s outfit, though.
It is.
The most 2000s outfit I could think of. Yeah.
And Keira Knightley was so young in this movie. So I did a TikTok a while ago talking about the age gaps in some of these movies. And she literally did this movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Love Actually right back to back. And I think she was like 15, 16, and 17 in those movies.
Wow. I didn't realize she was that young. Because I knew this was her first movie, I think.
It's the first movie where she is like playing the major supporting role.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Jonathan
Rhys. He is not young either. Like, he's like in his mid 20s in this movie, and the two of them are pretty young.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. Parminder is 10 years older than Keira Knightley.
Oh, really?
Okay. Well, then I feel much better. But yeah, Keira Knightley, young in this movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Parminder's older than Jonathan Rhys Meyers. She was born in 75. He was in 77.
Good for them.
Black and brown don't crack, baby.
So even though the ages in the movie were kind of
sus.
I was like, I realized in this movie that they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Yes.
as an adult, I keep realizing, I'm like, oh my God, they're so young, like more and more as an adult. So
and also because it throws you off, they go to the club, they go to the pub, but England, they don't got the rules.
But the coach does. Like,
he don't care.
So they're at the club. Jess is actually kind of letting loose. It seems like she's probably drinking for the first time. Like that's the feel you get, is like she's actually having fun, but she does get overwhelmed, and so she steps outside.
Overwhelmed, that bitch can't hold her liquor.
She passed out. She almost passed out.
So, and then also
like over. Poor girl, but
and also in this, they're all sitting at a booth, and Jules is like, come dance with me, Joe, come dance.
Thirsty.
Drags him out on the dance floor.
Oh, so bad.
And then Jess is kind of dancing with the other soccer players, and he goes over and pulls her in.
Moment of my own heart. I was just like, I love this. I love when the guy grabs the girl and it's like, dance with me too. When they were
this whole scene was cringe. Okay. I was on my couch like,
when they're dancing together, the threesome. Oh my God, it's so weird. And he has no rhythm. He has no rhythm, of course.
It was very Night at the Roxbury.
I am dancing to the music. I know that they don't actually play the music, so it doesn't always, but like Beyonce always be on beat. Jess was on beat to whatever the hell was playing.
It's mostly his movement. It's his movement that is distracting.
Keira she's doing the most white girl in this scene. Right?
It's always the white boy for me. I'm always just like looking at the white boy. I'm like, is the white boy dancing or not?
No.
And she, like, Keira Knightley is just hips side to side and shaking that hair.
And
like
flailing those long arms up and down.
And we haven't talked about the hair up until now. What was that haircut?
No, but because that is the haircut that made the whole Auntie Network freak out.
Yes.
That haircut that did it all. So yeah, it was a choice.
It felt very 2000s. It felt very I play on a soccer team vibes. I'm just going to say it.
No, it worked for her role, but it was
not a look.
No,
it was definitely not.
Jess goes outside because she can't handle her liquor.
She drives.
And Joe follows her out. And so she starts thanking him for coming to the house and talking to her parents. And then she leans in to kiss him. And before the kiss even happens, here comes Jules, homewrecker. You bitch.
So aggressive.
You would not be standing calling me no fucking bitch.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, it was very aggressive. It was very, very aggressive.
And then I had questions because I had a feeling them two were sharing a room. Like,
Oh, yeah, because they like just pan out, right? Like they just don't even show them. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, because the next scene is her getting back and her parents are like, we know what you did.
Yeah. I know what you did last summer in Germany, you drunk bitch. Get in the car.
It's of a newspaper of all things. Cover your tracks. Like,
what was she supposed to go to the newspaper place? It's like, no, don't
hide yourself. No, you hide yourself. If there's a camera, you go like this. It's like Teenage 101 or Brown Girl 101.
Even if she wasn't in that picture, the dad knows the team. It was nothing she could have done.
I will say that when dads know, they know. That's the thing. When you can like kind of get with moms, because like moms have like whole like, fine, I'll let you go. But whenever a dad wants to know something, they're just like on top of it.
Yeah, my dad. He rarely did it, but when he would, you find me taking dryer sheets to my hair because I think I smell like weed because he come and pick me up in Brooklyn and I didn't know he was coming and I'm scared and paranoid. Yes.
No, because they don't do it often. So
they don't.
You're like, what is going on? Like, I still get like anxiety. Like I get hardcore anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, my dad's checking things. Like, why? So I get it. And I really love to change the fact that like now the father is involved. And it kind of added this tension to the movie.
Yes.
The father is involved. Because that was a whole like
before it was just the mom. And now she in real trouble.
Jess tells Pinky everything and tells her how like she has this connection with the coach and they almost kissed and everything. And Jess is like, he is white. Like, do you think they'll ever speak to me again? And so then Pinky's trying to come up with solutions. She's like, what about Tony? He's a nice boy.
Yeah. How does no one realize that? Like, I usually in these movies, the younger characters know and the parents don't know, but it's just surprising that like even the sister doesn't realize.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's just they're brought up to just like you're finding a husband, and so you just believe that everyone in your circle is a potential husband for you.
Yeah. Jess and Jules have a scene together. I think when Jules is like throwing things out, when her mom overhears Jewel and Jess, and she assumes it's like a lover's quarrel, basically.
Yeah.
she does go over there to try to talk to her, and she calls her out. She's like, you said you didn't like him. And
she says something like, you should have known.
girl, bye.
Like, even though I said the opposite of what I actually feel, you should have still known exactly what I was feeling.
And see, for Jess, now I'm just concerned about Jess. Later on, they go to school together, and I'm like, Jess, now you stuck with this bitch because she's already shown you who she is.
Yes.
You're right. Don't they live together? Like, probably.
Yeah, I know she apologizes or whatever, they get over it, but like she has shown you who she is. And I believe that that's a warning right there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely because this is how we've been trained to see girls. So yeah. I also like, at least like for me, the way the mother handles the whole potential of her daughter being gay or a lesbian was very interesting, especially with the juxtaposition to how Tony comes out. And it's very much like one is very polarized and definitely has some sort of like phobia, whereas the other one, Tony, is just like existing and is very healthy. And it was very interesting. I'm happy that they showed both because it's like at least they were progressive in that sense. But her mom was definitely feeling some type of way.
Oh gosh.
Daughter being a lesbian.
Like she was like borderline paranoid, like looking for every little clue and
blaming the soccer, acting as if it was like a choice. Like it gave a lot of notions of like unhealthy thoughts, basically.
Yeah.
And this is the scene where Jess goes to talk to Tony because she's talked to Joe at this point, and they have a chat about like, Joe's like, but what about you? What do you want? You need to go after your dreams type thing. And then like, she kind of ends it with, have you talked to your dad in a while? She's just like,
yeah.
Well, if you're going to be giving me all of this advice, well, maybe you should talk to your dad. And so then she goes to talk to Jules because it does resonate with her that she needs to make this right. Mm-hmm. And then that whole scene with the mom thinking that they're having a lover's spat. Mm-hmm. And so then she goes to talk to Tony because I think at this point she's just like, I don't know what the heck's going on. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought I was off the team. I'm not off the team. Like maybe he's coaching the boys team next year. So like, he's not going to be my coach anymore. And then Jules is still mad at me. So she talks to Tony. This is when Tony comes out to her. But he also says, you can't plan who you fall for.
I love that line.
Yes.
Because she's like basically like trying to say like, what should I do? I also like my coach. He was white. And then he's like, well, you can't plan for who you fall for. And it's like a perfect segue.
Yes.
It's so well done because like as someone who's always just been like, well, like love is love. And it's like, if you can expect, like, it's all of it is always like any type of like acceptance when it comes to people or like interracial marriages or like LGBTQ plus marriages, anything. It's just, love is love. Like if you can accept one, you should accept all. So that's my thought process at least. And I really love that segue of like them being like, oh, you can't, Tony being like, you can't help who you love, probably thinking about himself.
Yeah.
And then they talk about David Beckham. He's just like, no, I really like David Beckham. And then her being like, oh. It was a seamless transition.
Yeah.
And definitely something that like, again, this movie came out like what, 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
We still quote could hear now. So again, a very progressive moment for the movie.
And she's like, well, Pinky always thought you were mad about me. He's like, I am mad about you. I just don't want to marry you. So it's like, I'm your ride or die, but like, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah, my D doesn't want to go in your V.
Yeah.
Sorry. Not interested.
I love you, but not like that. It's such a healthy friendship. Like, I don't
it
see
is.
it yet.
And so she's going to give it a try. again,
So
still wearing a bathrobe where it's very obvious, like you have like layers on underneath. And
That
in this
happens
scene, her parents are going,
she pretends to be sick and they're going to like, I don't know if they're going to religious service or something. They're going somewhere. I don't know.
I think it is a service of some kind.
They're going somewhere. And then the dad comes back and realizes that Jess isn't there because Jess has now gone to go play the football match or whatever. And the dad.
Well, as soon as they leave, like she has barely closed the door. She picks up her boots that are sitting right next to the front door. I'm like, how did they not know?
And she leaves, she bounces. And she does this earlier when she's sneaking out. She takes off her jacket that's hiding her like warm-up outfit right outside of the door. Bitch, get down the street first. What are we doing? It's very novice behavior.
Her sister did not teach her well enough.
No,
I just don't think she was paying attention. I think Pinky was laying, like Pinky could write a map for this girl and she still was not getting it.
Pinky had a secret boyfriend.
Yeah.
Girls with secret boyfriends know what they're doing. So
but her mom called her out on that shit later because she's like, I have known about this, but now that you're getting married, I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
I love that part. I love that part because my mom is very similar. They're like, she's like, I knew I was just being cool. And I was like, oh, okay. It's such a mom move. They're like, I knew you had a boyfriend, but you got married, so I'm okay with it now.
The ends justify the means.
We see Jess is at the game. She's playing. Her friends, like the friends that she plays soccer with in the park, are there. Tony is there.
So derogatory. That conversation.
Such assholes.
Yeah. And then they have a conversation about boobs that like is just
terrible.
Ugh. And then dad shows up.
But Tony, one line, Tony's like, why can't you just look at them like soccer players? And then they brush him off and still make fun. But I like that Tony stood up for that.
Tony is like, Tony's the textpoop. Like we need to find like people
he's the blueprint.
Yeah,
he's the blueprint.
Blueprint, that's the better word. It's just we don't even get characters like that now. Like we need more Tonys for sure.
And Tony needed his own storyline for real.
Know. I wanted to see that story with him and the guy, and
didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so it's during this game, like another player checks Jess and calls her a derogatory slur. So Jess gets pissed and like pushes her back. And Jess is the one that gets red carded in that situation.
So the derogatory word that's used is that what they would call all Indian people, or is it a derogatory word for Pakistan?
It's both, but like it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier about being like other within the other.
Yeah,
like Paki people get called that as a derogatory term, but then when Indians get called Paki, they get really upset because like we're not Paki, and it's like so they get another layer of upset because they're like we're not that type of other. So it's like
make it make sense.
I don't know. I can't.
Place. Y'all know.
And we were literally the same freaking country.
Yes, that's what I don't understand.
Don't get me started about that. But like hearing an Indian person being like, they call me Paki, and I was like, what is that supposed to mean? I was just very much like the movie tackles a lot of things, then doesn't even talk about it later, and it's just like there's so much more to say. But like it
doesn't make sense. And it's the same thing for me because I'm like, I'm sorry, you're just as brown as me. What is happening right now?
So this is the thing, they let things exist, which is I'm very happy about, but like it's kind of just like me saying something on TikTok. Like I can't just be like, I can't date Bruno, then people be like, what? Like I need to explain this more. So like the movie said the things they did for the time it's being, and I this is why I appreciate the movie. But like there needs to be more discourse with it. Like the same context of like being called Paki that Indians would be upset about. Well, what about a Paki person? Or the comment about like, if I can date a Muslim, I would be killed, because that unfortunately is a thing. But then also like you're saying you can't date a Black person. It's just, there's so many things that they just threw out there. And I know they're doing it for representation, but at the same time, it's like, context. Say more, please.
Yeah. But I think in a movie, it's hard to do that, right? Like,
Right,
and I think that's why we have so many different mediums and why shows like Miss Marvel or Never Have I Ever, as crazy as the character is, as Davy is, we're still getting layers of what it's like to be a first generation and wanting to assimilate because you don't want to be othered and wanting to be to have a part of your culture, but not, it's those worlds colliding, like still wanting to do the American things and not be completely identified by your culture at the same time.
And going off what you said earlier, like this is why spaces like TikTok or like having these podcasts are nice, because it's like we can address them at least. We can talk about them at least and be like, hey, can we talk about that one line more and like get into it in the way that they couldn't. So like, but yeah, there's needs to be a lot of seminars and things to discuss.
And the part in this, when she does get called this racial slur and her coach, I'm really proud of her, because when her coach comes after the game, he rails into her because now he feels the pressure that he can't give her special treatment, one, and two, he just thinks job. Right. And two, I think it plays into like girls could be like extra sensitive about stuff, like you just need to brush it off, and him not really understanding what was said. I'm glad he did believe her though, that it happened. And
I like this position because I think he's Irish.
Yes.
And I know that there's a big history with Ireland and England.
Yes.
And so this is something that I was aware of growing up as a first generation child. But my parents they're a little behind on history because they grew up in Pakistan. So whenever whenever they learn things, they're like, I didn't know this happened in England and Ireland. Like, it's very similar to India and Pakistan. And I was like, oh, and listening to it from their perspective, I kind of like that they made Joe kind of relate to her in this moment, because it's like my parents felt that connection when they heard about these types of moments in history. Same with other moments in history where people were affected by colonizations or like oppression. So it's like, it's nice that, because as a child, it's just like, is that appropriate? But hearing it from my parents' perspective, I was like, I'm glad that the director chose to be like, Joe understood, because he probably does face it as well, being Irish in England.
Which is funny, because I don't think it was her initial intent. They only made him Irish because he added that line.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is he originally Irish? I thought maybe that's why, or no? Am I making stuff up about that?
I think when I don't know if he added this line when he was auditioning. I don't think it was like randomly in the movie that they changed this course. I think when he was auditioning for the movie, he added that line. And
that's really interesting. Well, played well with that.
Go ahead, Jen.
And he is in fact Irish. Jonathan Rhys Meyers, the actor, could relate to that.
Yeah.
I feel like he just wanted to let his accent fly.
Yes. Not mad at it.
He did. I'm okay with him. That's why I was like, he is Irish, because he just wanted to have that accent.
Yeah. When I originally watched this movie, I just thought he was so cute. And when I rewatched it, I was like, what? No, I'm not feeling it anymore.
I don't like the actor, but I really like this role. So it was really weird for me, because I know he's kind of has a sordid past. Let's put it that way.
Is he a dick?
Yeah, he's a dick.
No.
They all are, right?
Well, that makes sense, because he was initially embarrassed by the film. He was opposed to being in it, calling it a girly movie. He even tried to hide that he was cast for as long as he could. And he said, I thought it was going to be terrible. For months and months, I refused to tell anybody that I'd been in a film called Bend It Like Beckham. Even in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to do this. But I spoke to my brother, and he said, do the film. Everybody's going to love it. So if he's an ass,
he's a dick.
His brother's not a dick, apparently.
Well, good for him. But this is why I hate his role, because I'm just like, you're so great in this role, but I hate you.
Yeah. The dad watches her play and sees that she's actually a good soccer player.
Yeah.
Yep. And then he also sees the interaction with the coach and that the coach is kind of consoling her about and relating to her being called this slur. And so the next scene is, as I think Pinky puts it, Teet's mom and dad came by and ate dirt.
No, she's like, what did she call her? Oh man, that cow heifer, some animal she calls her. And she said, she can't eat dirt. She was just, she was eating up every single
She was
that cow. I think she says that cow. Yeah, I love that scene.
And then, so the next day, wedding's back on. We need to book the venue. The venue only has the 25th open. And now dad knows that the playoffs are on the 25th. And Jess kind of is like, oh, that's the day, dad. And so he asks if there are any other days, and they're booked for like months. And so Pinky's like, please don't let me have to wait to be married. I need to do it in 3 weeks or whatever the time frame is. And so they booked the 25th, and Jess has kind of just resigned herself to the fact that like she needs to be a good sister. This is Pinky's day, and she just can't make the playoffs when the scouts are going to be there. And that's just that. At this point, Jules goes to see Joe. Jules is pissed. She thinks that Joe just keeps blowing him off and like blowing smoke that these scouts are coming. He's like, no, they're going to be here on the playoffs. And then she like yells at him some more about how he's just going to abandon them to go coach the men's team and all of that. And so she's very full of rage.
Yes, because she believed that Joe was meant for her.
Yeah.
She's butthurt. And I love how he just doesn't give a shit. And he's just like, by the way, can you go talk to Jess and find out like
very
if
man.
She's okay?
It's a very man thing to do.
Yeah. And so Jules takes her ass over there, and she's not rude or whatever, but she's telling her about the coach. And Jules is just finally gives her a little fire, and it's just like, you're only here because you need me to
Jess
make you
does.
look better. Yeah, Jess, sorry. Jess says that to Jules.
Yeah.
And Jules is like, fuck you.
Which 100% valid.
Yeah.
The only reason Jules is like as good as she is because she has Jess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think both of them feed each other. Like I think they both take each other up to the next level. They play well together. And
the team sport, like they want to look like they're winning, right? So like,
yeah,
they're going to shine if they are winning. So they need each other for this moment.
Yeah.
That's team sports.
But at this moment, Jess, again, that insecurity of her not thinking that she's good enough. She thinks that Jules is only coming about her. She only thinks the scout is interested in Jules.
Yeah.
Not her. So that's why she's saying this with such like spitefulness in her delivery.
Especially with the pressure with her mom and her sister and everything happening at the time. She's probably just like, really? You right now? Like, I don't need this on top of everything else I'm dealing with.
Yeah, she's over it. And then I think they're doing wedding preparation, and it's really cool to just like see this whole process of getting everything ready for the wedding. And it's not even getting ready. They're having one of the many ceremonies for the wedding. And what were you going to say, Mari?
The music is so good at this moment too.
It is.
So good. I love the music choices in this, not only with the 90s popular music with Western, but like also like the Desi music that they chose, the South Asian music. This is one of my favorite songs of all time. So it's just like, because I remember this was like the somber moment because she's not playing soccer. She's like begrudgingly helping her sister get married. It's very dramatic. It's very cute though. And it's very good song choices. I love the details of this movie too.
And is this the time when Joe comes to the house again? This dude is like,
he comes like again, right?
Yeah, he comes to talk to the dad and not be disrespectful. And
well, so it is kind of a montage, and it's the different celebrations that are happening. She takes down all of her David Beckham posters, and then she's helping with the cooking prep, sitting with all the aunties and stuff. And then Joe comes to the house, but he's like such a creeper, and he's just like looking in the window.
because it's during an event, right? Like they're having
Yes.
a ceremony, and he's just like peeking. Also, there's another guy who's like checking out Jess the whole time.
There
Yes.
is.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
was just like, oh no, like this is also happening.
But dad sees him in the peeking in the window. Dad goes out and he's like, what do you want? Why are you here? So Joe does tell dad about the scout opportunity, and it is the opportunity of a lifetime. And please don't let her talent go to waste, essentially.
Mhm.
Sees that dad is talking to Joe and goes out and talks to him. And she's just like, I got good grades. I'm starting university soon. And then he's like, that's awesome. I hope to see you playing for England someday. So he kind of is just like, not going to force the issue, but still trying to be as encouraging as possible.
I just want to say, Grinda, why did you name 3 of your main characters with a J? I am so proud of myself for only messing up a few times during this episode. Jules, Joe, Jess.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
And
Okay.
Jess and Jules has 2 names.
Yes.
Why they do this?
Jess does too. Jess has
Yes,
2
just
names.
wonder. Yes.
All right. I just had to put that
Yeah.
out there because
Joe
I just
technically
realized.
does too. They all have 2 names. Joe
Yeah. Oh, and Joe also says, I don't want to give up on you. And then he kind of like looks inside. He's like, are you promised to one of those men?
Yeah, did you? That was a moment. I was just like, oh, his like actual intentions are shining through now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at this point, you feel like he's into her, but he's never really made a
Declared it.
move.
Yeah.
No,
Like
he's
she was,
definitely
she was the one who leaned in to kiss him and things like that. So this was kind of like,
he leaned back.
Yeah.
back.
It's
It
true.
was there.
He did the hitch move.
Yes. Oh,
and
yeah.
then she went 90, he came 10.
Yeah.
And so he does leave her with like, you're lucky you have a family who cares so much.
Yeah.
Because he's estranged from his family. So now it's game day / wedding day. Jules's parents are heading to the game. Why is Jules's mom dressed for the Kentucky Derby?
She's dressed for Wimbledon. That's what she's dressed for. Except in Wimbledon, you're not supposed to wear a hat. So
Yeah.
Kentucky Derby.
She's
yeah.
a fascinator, right? Like,
Yeah.
like dressed to the nines for the queen. Like
She looked like she could go to a black church for real.
And so there is like a wedding / suiting up montage of the 2 different events. The game is going on. Joe's mad because they're not performing up to like their full potential because they're missing a critical part of their team.
Yeah.
I have to call out that the wedding
Sure.
ceremony, whenever the way the bride is walking, the way the girls are looking at her, I just love that moment so much.
It's beautiful.
It's not only just beautiful, like the layers of nuances where the girls are like stink eyeing her and being like, how she's wearing, and the sister Pinky is like smiling, and he says like, you're not supposed to be smiling when you smile. This was like a cultural staple for a really long time, especially at that time. Only girls could smile now. It's been a new like age of like, hey, brides can be happy, but like my mom's wedding picture, she's just like. And I remember like showing people my mom's wedding pictures and like, why isn't she smiling? I'm like, she's not smiling. What? So when the movie brought that up, I'm just like, wow, that's a great like joke that like we have that I didn't even realize. So,
And they have, this guy thinks he's like Martin Scorsese with this wedding video. Like he's getting all the angles, he's directing. It's one of the giant camcorders.
That scene at the end of the movie when they are drumping his ass because he caught people doing some shit they shouldn't have been doing. I was dying laughing.
I love it.
I've seen this movie a million times, but it never made me laugh as much as I did this time around.
It's so much fun to watch as an adult. It's
Yeah.
so much fun to watch this movie as an adult.
During the reception, Tony drags Jess into the kitchen and is like, hey,
Yeah.
you just need to go. Like, I'll cover for you. There's plenty of people here. Everyone's watching Pinky anyway. She's happy. Like, just.
And he's like,
Go.
I'll drive you. Let's go.
Yeah.
They
Let's
don't
do
make
this.
they don't make them like Tony. Like
They-
Tony was
they
just
don't.
such a great friend.
That needs to be
He
a
was.
t-shirt. They don't
Yeah.
make them like Tony.
You have
Yeah.
merch. You have They don't make them like Tony.
And dad overhears and he's like, if this makes you smile and I can get you smiling on your sister's wedding day, then go and find your happiness and come back. Mm-hmm. So dad's now in on it too. So Jess goes, gets in the game. She grabs Jules's hand because like that's what they do is like when they're anticipating like a play or whatever, everyone like grabs hands. So she like grabs Jules's hand and mom's clutching her pearls.
It's because there's a penalty kick. And so they do that as a way to get ready to see if it's going to be a goal or if they're able to like, that's as far as I got with football, y'all.
No,
I did good though.
No, there's a lot of things with soccer football, that they just do, right? It's like the culture of it. So yeah, that's it. They just do it. And mom does not know what's like football is.
But you know what? I'm kind of mad at her for that because her daughter's been doing this almost her whole life and she still hasn't gotten on board.
Her father built like a whole construction, like whole like little obstacle course for her.
Yeah.
Like a mom can't go to a game. Like it's very telling.
Yeah.
And so they start winning, obviously. Jess's mom kind of notices that Jess isn't at the reception. She's kind of like side-eyeing, like, I haven't seen her in a while.
That's what my question is, because as I'm not a younger child, but like in those situations, usually like if my grandma is running something and I'm her lackey, essentially in her mind, even if the day is not about me, she needs to know where my ass is so she can tell me to go do stuff. So I don't know who they thought they were fooling that nobody was going to notice Jess was gone.
And on a wedding date, and it's your sister's wedding. Like you are the number one person that's the lackey. Like, what do you mean you're not there? Like it's
right. So. It might even be that gender roles where they're so used to not being needed in those situations that they're like, no one's going to notice that you're gone.
But they're not girls. And somebody is noticing. Where is Jess?
Yeah, I think this is one of those moments that Jess didn't think about because it's like, as the cousin, I'm not even the sister, I was the cousin. They're like, where were you? It's like, I was fixing my contact.
Yeah.
Like, go over there. So it's definitely Jess's like, just got lucky. She didn't think about it, but yeah. A plot hole for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's towards the end of the game. Jess has a penalty kick very similar to in Berlin, but she makes it in this time. They win the game. The scout is there scouting and
doing their business, scouting
shit.
And I love in the scene where she imagines her sister and her mom and her grandmothers like standing next to the goal. Yeah.
So good. It was so good.
But they win the game. And then she's like, well, now I have to get back to this wedding. So this is the scene where the team's helping her with the sari.
I love this role for so many moments because it's like obviously whenever the players stand in front of them, it's to like intimidate the player to like. So it just shows like Jess's real intimidation is her family.
Yes,
they're the real people that are really standing in her way to what she wants. And then the soccer team, even though they probably didn't know her and they probably were like, "Oh, you're different. You don't have soccer cleats, or your family's weird." Then they're like trying to help her to get it together.
Yeah.
It just like shows like the importance of like branching out, connecting, and seeing like. I don't know, just it's good. It shows that like staying within your own community is important, but at the same time, like just because you branch out doesn't mean no one's going to understand you and want to learn about you.
Yeah.
That scene with the sari feels like in Miss Congeniality, like when Victor leaves and all the other beauty pageants like rally around Gracie because she doesn't know what she's doing.
It's women helping women.
Yes.
You love to see it.
Yeah. So she finds out that she gets a full scholarship to Santa Clara in California and she'll be able to play pro. Meanwhile, Jules' mom is spiraling.
I remember her mom right now.
And she's like, you're a lesbian, blah, blah, blah. I saw you. You had a fight.
Well, that happens. So Jess invited Jules to go to the wedding. And so when the mom sees her like in her best slacks, I guess that girl did not look cute. You don't gotta,
she had a polo shirt on.
It wasn't
white
given.
polo. It was a white polo shirt for an Indian wedding.
It was bad.
Yeah.
First of all, the best part of being able to go to an Indian wedding is to be able to dress in beautiful Indian garbs without it being appropriation, because you can't do it any other time.
And wear color, just wear any sort of bright color. Just go ahead. You wore white and black. Like,
so tragic. I think when I was younger, I didn't understand it.
She just, like you said, she was not giving. I just like her mom was just, you're right when she said spiraling. Like as soon as they got the scholarship and she saw them hug, freaking out. And then whenever she was talking about her and Jess living together, freaking out. So like the boiling point to the wedding when she just literally kind of ruins the wedding.
Yeah.
Like her just getting in her own head. Like they were hugging. They were just talking about their future. She was just in her own thoughts.
And it was just so, I know she's spiraling, but it was so rude of her.
Yes.
To go and like expose Jess in front of her entire family.
Yeah.
And ruin this very important ceremony of a wedding because you don't want your daughter to be a lesbian.
And Pinky called her out really well.
Yeah.
I forget what exactly she said. Pinky was just like, really, lady? Like, really?
It's my wedding.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I do love how one of the aunties is like Lebanese.
I thought she was a Pisces. Like, astrology, so good. That actress is also a legend in the Bollywood community.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I love how stuck she was on like, and why did she make Jess take her shoes off?
But when you think about it, it was weird.
It was. But I also love that nobody took it seriously because like we talk about like the cultural norms on how all the British people thought maybe like Jess thought maybe people thought her culture and stuff was weird, but her culture was looking at this white lady like, she crazy. What is she doing?
And even the aunties later, they were just like, it's the damn haircut.
Yes.
Like,
that's the confusion.
They like were trying to make sense of it. Like, oh, it happened to us. That's what they're doing too. Like,
so we get back at the house after the reception. Tony is trying his best to make it right. And so she's like, and Jess is like, I just don't know how this is going to work. Me going away. They're not going to let me leave. And so Tony has this whole grand plan that he does not clear with Jess.
He proposes.
Yes.
They really don't make him like Tony.
Tony's just like, we will be married, but she can go anywhere in the world for college.
This guy.
Her mom was like, you got it, Tony. That's great.
Really? You son of a bitch, I'm in. And Jess is like, no, we're not doing this. I got this scholarship. It's in California. I really want to go. It's really good for me. Played in the finals.
And Dad well, that part where she was like, and Dad let me. The mom was like, I'm gonna beat your ass.
I just want to point out that was probably the best plan was Tony's plan. Like that they could have gone away with it. This whole manufacturing plans was terrible. So like Tony comes involved and it's like, yep, she would have gone away with it. So for her to be like, no, I will actually come clean. I was like, you would have gone away with Tony's plan, but okay.
But I do like that when Jess is talking about that she doesn't want to lie anymore. And she does reference that her being able to play soccer is probably a blessing. Yeah, she's been blessed with this skill. And like, how can your parents fight with that you're like, God said that you got this skill? Like, how are you gonna fight with that?
Yeah.
And Dad also points out that he didn't have the heart to tell her no. And he realized that the only one who suffered in the whole, like him stopping playing cricket, the only one who suffered was him. Like he wasn't punishing anyone else by not playing for a cricket team.
Yeah.
So
that's something our parents need to learn. Cause like, I know I've had my own relationship with this where like my parents tried to steer me in a right path, but it ended up backfiring for me. And they're just like, our blessing was not yours. And I was like, yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like my blessing was not theirs. So it's just, it's very much like, again, this movie's a lot deeper when you think, if you get into it, like with the whole like father realizing that I am just holding you back because of what I went through, but you are a symbol that like times have changed and that I can support you. Maybe what I couldn't do, you could do.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And so this is when we get the line where mom's like, at least I taught her how to make a proper Indian dinner.
I still can't get over that. Like, I cannot believe that that was it. That was enough for her.
Yeah.
She was on a high. I just
Yeah.
got my daughter married. I don't fucking care what you do now. You
I
go to
think-
college, it's paid for. I taught you how to cook.
That's
Get
true.
out of my face. I'm tired. I'm tired.
I have to deal with your father later.
You got this white man on your wall. You sneaking around. You showing your legs. You got a lesbian friend. I'm done. I'm tired. You learned how to cook this damn meal. That's all I know how to do.
It's the high from the sister's wedding. You are
Yes.
so right. It's that high. And the fact that she got second proposed to like right after, I'm sure Tony's proposal was still on her mind.
Yes.
He probably was like, Tony's still there. He's still there.
When she comes back, I'll get this second wedding. That's
yeah.
secure. We're
Yep.
good to go. If you
Yeah.
want to lie for her, he love her.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's exactly what the mom was thinking.
Yeah.
Yes. And Jess goes to tell Joe, which is the scene behind me. He's still
I
at
love
the
that
field.
moment too. I love that moment.
It's so sweet. And she just realizes I'm going to be in California. Like, I would have loved for this to work out. And I'm so glad my parents are letting me go,
Yeah.
but you're going to be coaching here. I'm going to be in California. What are we doing? And he does say, well, I guess there isn't much point in us starting something. Now we're at the airport seeing them
it
off.
really changes.
Yes. And Jules's mom buys her a jersey as like a peace offering, and it has, is it Mia Hamm's
Mia Hamm,
number
yeah.
on it?
So she's obsessed with Mia Hamm, and which is funny because in the States, when they were making this, when they were thinking about the name of the movie, because obviously David Beckham is not like a god here, I guess, as much as it was there. They were thinking about actually calling it Move It Like Mia.
Oh, okay.
I like
Stupid.
to move it.
I just think that's silly.
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to change all that?
Yeah, I'm glad that because like she had a shrine of David Beckham.
Yeah.
Right.
Through all like again, like just it would have been.
And he gave his permission for them to use the name. He said he fully supports women's soccer or women's football. And so he was very happy to lend his name, and then his little cameo at the end.
He also added that he wants more people to buy tickets. He wanted more women
Oh, yeah.
to come to the game.
Oh,
So
yeah.
financially, he was making moves, if you know what I mean.
That's a good point. I'm just glad the movie didn't assimilate to American culture because I feel like the movie existing in the British
Yeah.
context that I did, it made it work so well.
Yes.
I feel like if they were going to do something like that, they would have to change it completely like they did Fever Pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why we have She's the Man. We're good.
Yes.
Yes. We have our female soccer movie.
So a little background is that even though David Beckham's name is in the title, Gurinder Chadha based the whole premise of basing it on soccer or football on Ian Wright's success as a Black footballer in England.
Oh, wow.
Specifically wearing the Union Jack at the Euro 96 championship. She has admitted she doesn't know a lick about football. When she wrote the movie, she wrote most of the parts, but when it came to any of the football parts, that's why she had her other two writers help fix it. And she's like, it's fine. I don't have to know about football, but
No, and I respect that because it makes a better movie.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, men, get women in on the writing table when you're writing those scripts, so you don't have women just fighting with each other all the time.
Yeah.
Representation behind production is just so much more important than people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love when you watch the end of this movie and they are all singing hot, 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 that you see so many different types of people behind the
Mhm.
scenes, which tells me it was a very diverse production.
And you
Yeah.
can tell that they had fun. Like it was,
Yeah.
John the Rhys Meyers aside, like literally everyone else is very happy to be part of this. So I love that. There's a lot of parts that I love. I've said this a lot, but that ending is really cute. One of my favorite parts, and I actually made a TikTok video that I'm going to post later, but it's whenever he's playing cricket with the dad. I love that part because that is how you
It's
get
so
into dads. That's how you. That is the key. Like if any man is listening to this, if you want to get good at my dad, just play cricket with him. And
So yeah, just prior to that, in the airport, Joe shows up and he says he's been offered the men's gig.
But he decides to stay with the women's team.
That's right.
And he won't be her coach anyways because she's going away. But
he's in America, right? Like he's offered to coach American team?
No, he is offered. They're deciding to make the team a professional team. And so he's going to coach the girls' team as a professional team.
Oh, okay.
And then he's like, I hope once you're done with your studies to recruit you for England.
And she's like, if you can afford me or something.
Yes.
Do a little cheeky remark.
Which is really sad because in real life, the actual WUSA, I think it crumbles and they have to close up shop. So Jess and Jules in real life aren't actually going to make it to this non-existent professional league, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it folded 7 weeks after the film was released in the US. Sorry, Jess and Jules.
Wow, that was so quick. I thought it was like within the same year, but wow.
Yeah. But they do have a conversation. And is it Joe that says, I can't let you go without knowing even family and distance, we might have something. And so she said, well, I'll be back at Christmas time. And so then we get a scene, and it has to be, because this is end of summer, and by Christmas, the next scene they show, sister is like heavily pregnant.
Pregnant.
Which makes me wonder, was she pregnant before she got married?
Oh, she was. I have a whole conspiracy theory since I was a child. And then I was like, she was definitely pregnant before. And he's been laying down the groundwork that Jess may have been gone, but he is working the family.
Yes.
So we see him playing cricket with dad, and they're all in like little matching cricket outfits with the sweater vests.
Yeah, it's adorable. I don't like cricket, but I like those outfits.
And that is Bend It Like Beckham.
Yay!
It is an experience for sure.
Yeah.
Do we have any fun facts that we still want to say before we get to?
It was Keira Knightley's first major supporting role.
I do like that Parminder won FIFA's presidential award because the film deals with issues of cultural conformity and serves superbly to bring women's football into the spotlight as a game for all women of all cultures, according to
FIFA.
She was the first woman to receive the award, and she beat out the likes of Luis Figo and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing. And a heavily edited version of the movie aired in North Korea, making it the first Western-made film to air there.
Wow.
That is amazing.
Just to add, Parminder is, so we brought up Never Have I Ever. The character Anissa and Parminder are coming out with a new movie or like series soon. So
they're coming out with,
they're working together. Like they're both going to be starring in something together. So.
Oh, that's super cool.
Because I haven't seen her. I remember her in Ella Enchanted, and I remember her in this. So
I loved her in ER. She's been on a lot of TV shows lately.
Okay, good. Because I remember she had her stunt in ER, but that was like a while ago. So I was like, I haven't seen her. And Anissa, just like, I know that Never Have I Ever is coming out with the 3rd season. So I can't remember the actress's name. So when I heard that they were going to be doing something together, I was like, oh my God, it's like my childhood and my like adulthood
coming together.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see I feel like she's about to have another like renaissance of like.
That would be really cool. So if you don't know what bending the ball is, it's when a player kicks the ball to create a curve that can get around a wall of defenders, which apparently it even takes physics into matter, like to get this right. And David Beckham was the first to really bend the ball, and he put bending on the map, and his ability to consistently do it is what made him a standout player. Plus he's hot.
Plus that. Yeah.
Why don't you tell everyone how to find you on your social channels, Maria, so that they can check out your videos?
Yeah. Again, the best way to find me is on TikTok. Call me by this name, Maria. And then I have a link tree with everything else. I talk about TV, fandoms, movies, and have your own representation. So yeah, if you would like that, follow me.
And as always, you guys can tweet us on the twatters and Tell us your opinions of this movie, if you agreed, disagreed. And that is at No More Late Fees on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And I'll start with you, Maria. What is your present day rating of this movie?
I think I'm going to buy it again. I was going to say rewatched. I can't remember the drink. I know I would rewatch a lot, but it hit a lot of the feels. So
yeah,
I buy it again.
Jackie, how about present day Jackie? How does she feel about it now?
I would give it a 5-day. If it's on, I'll definitely watch it. Or if someone wants to sit down and watch it, definitely.
For me, it would be a would buy it again. I'm so glad we finally did this movie because I try to withhold from watching the movies I know we're going to do so I don't mess up like my initial feeling. So now that this is opened back up that I can go back and watch it, that makes me feel much better because I couldn't. So yay, we all like it.
Awesome. And if you have any feedback, want to suggest future movies, what you like, dislike, give us corrections, share favorite moments or blockbuster or video store stories, hit us up at our quick drop 909-601 and MLF 909-601-6653. As Danielle said, you can also twat us at the Twitters or leave a voice message at our Anchor FM for our international listeners, and you can be featured on a future episode.
And join us next week as we take on the hostage caper masterminds with Patrick Stewart, our granddaddy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as always, be kind and rewind.